Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. I am here. I'm so happy to say this to you. Damn it.
Sorry, that's my way of saying hello to a few people out there. They know exactly what that sound is.
I'm here with our dear mate, Rick. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm good to be kind of back. I did go on hiatus for personal reasons, and for personal reasons, I am back. This is not an improvement on my situation. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that I do have a lot of the factors that were inspiring my hiatus are no longer in play at the moment, and we'll just leave it at that. It's good to be back. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so happy to have you back. First of all, when you spin that thing, you sound like an apparition. You sound like when Michael Myers shows up in the scene. It's really unsettling. But
it's what I do to fidget now. This is a dice ring. It's something it's the one thing that I bought for myself at PAX, because I just got back from PAX. Well, not just got back. That was like a week ago. And it was a great trip. Got to work with and chat with the Coles, Laurie and Corey Cole. It was a great time. It was awesome. PAX was exactly what I expected out of PAX. It's not really my thing. I'm not really a big convention kind of guy, but it was an experience. I'm glad I did it at least once, so I know I don't really have to do that again in my life. Anyways, you didn't even ask me that, so let's move on.
We can edit that right on in there, mate. Don't worry about that. It's the magic of post. Well, I will take the time to say I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to go. I was supposed to go up until just a very short time beforehand. I had to go do something work-related very far away in magical lands. It was nowhere near as cool as PAX, but I'm sorry that I had to miss it. I think the ghost of me took my plane ticket that I still had and traveled there in it, and hopefully had a good time being inappropriate with everyone there. But no, it sounded like a really cool time. I was really, really bummed to miss it. And now that you're saying you might not ever go again, I might have bloody missed the damn train.
I'm not sure if I'll never go again. It just might be a little while before I go again. I probably won't. I'm not sure if I'll really go to PAX officially, but I'm sure I'll be in Seattle on that weekend eventually one of these years.
Make an unofficial appearance.
Exactly. I'll just, security is pretty heavy, so I can't make an unofficial appearance at PAX. That's for sure. But, I just mean the one of these years I might one day be in Seattle at around that weekend. But I did buy a dice ring. So you're going to probably hear this quite a bit. I won't even really notice that I'm doing it. In fact, I'm just going to take it off.
I think you've already proven you can't handle it. You had 10 for the whole episode, and you used them all up.
I swear, there's a lot of little things I do to fidget, like I crack my knuckles, I do and stuff like that, and I don't even know that I'm doing it until people tell me, "Can you stop doing that?" So, this is a responsibility that I do not have the power to control.
You saying that made me have to crack my knuckles. Now this whole podcast is us making obnoxious sounds into the microphone. Everyone loves that in stereo.
Yes.
No, I'm glad you put it away. That sound, I'm telling you, that's the same sound effect teenagers hear right before they die in a lake. It's just got that classic horror sound. It's very off-putting, mate.
So, what are we talking about today, Paul?
We're talking about all the things today, mate, including all that past stuff that we just done. That was good. And now we're going to talk about games. Here's the title of the segment. Ready? It's called "Why Weren't They More Popular?"
Why weren't you more popular?
Buddy, what we're about to say. The games. So the idea here, and this was my idea, which means it's probably not going to be a good episode entirely, because I don't seem to have the most golden ones, but that's a great thing to say to listeners too. Just tune away now. I'm sitting in a box on the floor with a blanket over my head, just so you all know that, all right? I'm literally on the floor, like in a little childhood fort, and recording this just so there's no echo to my voice. And our good mate Rick, he has compiled a staggering amount of notes on the back of a Mike and Ike wrapper And
Correction, on the inside of a Mike and Ike box. Well, I mean, I will point out that you do have a slight echo in your voice. It's not nearly as bad as it was before. It's fine. I'm sure nobody noticed until I mentioned it just now. So you're welcome. But for some reason, Paul decided that it would be a good idea to relocate his recording space into a wide open, empty room. And if you know how recording works, which I thought you did since that's kind of your job.
I got him. Nice.
You generally try to be in more closed in and padded areas, which you were not. So now I recommended, because this is how I used to have to do some of the podcast recordings back in the early days. I'd have to record entirely from underneath a blanket. So I passed that knowledge on to you. And good on you. I was worried that people might not know the dedication that you put into this. And now they know that you are very miserable and uncomfortable for them.
I've literally got a steel pole in under me ass. I'm sitting on a picnic table on its side with a blanket over it. But this is about games, not my bum and what's around or in it.
So is that what we're supposed to be contemplating? Why it's not more popular? Because I can think of like a bunch of reasons. Okay,
I'm gonna go shopping.
This episode is about why are we not popular? The answer is everything that we've said until now.
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A. This.
All right. So I'll try and steer us into. I'm just gonna say one last thing. I'm gonna shop for some tapestries tomorrow. If there's any good online tapestry outlets, please let me know, because I need some bloody rugs on these walls or whatever. But all right. So we're gonna talk about games. We're saying like, why weren't they more popular? Because part of that's to like bait you, the listener, into being like, oh, bloody tell you why it wasn't more popular. It's a shit game. But we're also trying to find a way to avoid using the term underrated, because that would be like the cliche right now. You know, here's some underrated games. But like the reality is that just because it's not the most popular of them all doesn't mean it's underrated. Like there's a lot of amazing games out there that just because it's not like Monkey Island or whatever doesn't mean it's not known by anybody. There kind of are no hidden gems. You know, from
that is correct, and that is a very important distinction to make. Is at least one of the games that I want to mention on this topic is by no means underrated, in the sense that like all 12 of us who played the game really love it.
Right. It's just, you know, why was it just 12 of us? Why wasn't it more people? What the hell? So yeah, we're trying to find, you know, just games that aren't your King Quests and your Monkey Islands and stuff like that just dominated kind of everything and still do, and rightfully for a reason. So these games, you know, I'm sure are favorites to some of you out there, or certainly not hated by them. But yeah, we just wanted to bring up some less talked about games from the era and figure out, if possible, why they weren't more popular, or just simply state they bloody should have been. All right, mate. So I've got two games to go over. I think you've got the same?
2 games, yes. Not the same 2 games, but I do also have 2 games.
Beautiful. Why don't you start us off, mate?
I guess I could. I'll start with a simple one. Not that it's a simple game, it's just sort of, I have the least to say about it. Now, those of you who remember when SimCity came out, remember how big it was. Like, it was a big game. It came out very improbably. Like, there's not very many games that sound more boring on paper than Run a City, and yet it just took off. Like, it was a big deal. I loved it. I loved it from the moment I played it. It was I forget how old I was, but it was a game that I specifically asked for my friends to get me for my birthday, and they all chipped in and got it for me, and I was like, best birthday ever. So SimCity was huge, and it got everything that it deserved and more. And it was followed up with SimEarth. I believe SimEarth was immediately after SimCity. I think it was its immediate follow up. And it was kind of the opposite. It sounded so awesome on paper, where it's like you play God running a planet now. You're not just running a city, you're running a world. And it wasn't nearly as popular. Like, there was a little bit, it got buzz, like people knew about it. But it's not a game that people talk about now. I'm sure everyone tried it a little bit. I don't know. I can't find any sales figures for this, so I don't know exactly how well it performed. But it was the barrier of entry was just a little too high to appeal to the mainstream audience. There's a lot of people like me who really enjoyed the extra complexity, but seriously, this game famously came, especially the PC version. I don't know about the console versions, but it famously came with a really thick uh, manual, which was basically a textbook on this on Gaia theory, which is what you needed to know in order to which is the principles upon which the game mechanics revolved around. So basically, in order to really get like the full depth and scope of this game, you could pretty much teach like an undergrad class on on how to play on like the theories and concepts that go into playing this game that you're going to have to use to play the game well. So I forget, it's not the biggest manual ever. I think that goes to Falcon 4, but it's like a good 200-page manual of how to play the game. I think that was just a little too complicated for the average person to really get into, considering how easy SimCity was, because it was just so much more. It was the right scale. Like, you're going to build a residential block. You can build a commercial block, an industrial block, link them with roads, police station. You know all this stuff. You know the concepts intuitively because you live in these cities. It's very different when you have to elevate yourself to that of God and try to literally play God for a game. There's a lot you gotta know. It's not as easy as, infinity snapping anything that you want to happen into existence. There's like sliders and charts and graphs, and you gotta balance stuff. Like, God's job is hard. As it turns out, he's not just some guy who can will things. He's gotta science this stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of the one time I think I saw the human nervous system laid out. Like, geez,
Yeah.
good God, man, that's.
And so, sorry, I say he reflexively. I should say God, gender neutrally. If I say he, it was just a reflex. I'm not implying that God is male or gender assigned. Just want to get that out of the way.
And I believe that God looks like the guy on the Elmer's glue bottle. I always have. I don't know why. It's not a blasphemy thing. It's just I feel like that's what it looks like. But anyway.
God's job is hard and takes a lot. So if you think that your job is difficult as mayor, try being God. It's
That was some really impressive Jewish guilt you just gave everyone. if you think your life's hard, imagine being God. Like, there's no way to back out of that kind of argument. Like, all right, I guess. Shit.
I mean, you have a little bit less accountability, I guess. I mean, people can dislike you, but you can always throw a comment at them. That's an option. If things weren't going as I planned, I would just hit it with a nuclear strike. That area will just be contaminated with nuclear radioactivity, and then I just hit a meteor at it and wipe that area out, and it's done. There you go for complaining. I don't get why God doesn't do this more.
You're literally not just destroying them, but like generations of them.
There are land masses that don't exist anymore because of me.
It is more effective than a passive aggressive comment on social media, though. So I'll give you that.
I'm not saying this in any reference to any God that exists currently in any religious texts. I'm just saying the kind of God I'd be pretty wrathful God.
You'd be on the more Cthulhu side of things. I could see that.
Yeah. Now, this sounds like fun, but like I said, there's a lot of work and a lot of like number crunching and sliders and stuff like that goes into it. So you can't just jump right in and start doing stuff, not the stuff that you want to happen, because it is just a very complex game and probably a little too complex to really hit the mainstream popularity that SimCity did. Because think of it, like, SimCity has been released how many times? SimCity 2000, 3000, probably a 4,000. Yeah, there a 4,000? I think there's
About as
SimCity
many as Star
4.
Wars, I would say.
Yeah, like there's a SimCity 4, SimCity. I think they just rebooted and just called it SimCity. There's tons of SimCities. They didn't go back to Sim Earth.
All right, I'll move on to mine. One of mine too. Like your previous one, this is one I have I guess the least to say on. Whenever I say that, it turns out flip-flopped, so let's just go with it.
Yeah, that just happened to me too.
So mine, I'm not going to go too on about this because I've mentioned it before in the podcast. But my first one is Sierra's Gold Rush, because I'm just angry it's not more popular than it is. I don't want to hear any reasoning otherwise. I'm just angry it's not, because I love this game, and it's again, it's not like it's unknown. But it's probably pretty close to the bottom of the barrel for Sierra adventure games, as far as odds that someone's played it, kind of thing. And
I've always known about it. I've always really wanted to play it. It was just not the one that anyone bought and passed around through the neighborhood.
Right, yeah, sometimes that is the case too, just what this got shared. I think this game's really cool. I was reading some criticisms about it for note-taking, and I saw that one of the more common wording for the game when it came out, a more common reception of the game was that people felt that the graphics were under par. And I thought that's strange, because to me this game stands out graphically, like just the way I remember it, at least. I mean, I have replayed it recently, but so I guess I stand by it. I think the graphics in this are really cool. It's not often you get just like real life, especially outdoor graphics in a lot of adventure games or games in general. Just, real life isn't usually the most exciting choice, so sci-fi or back in time or whatever, but it was just cool to see like their take on the outside world. So the graphics were beautiful. Like,
how can the graphics not be to par? Like, it's AGI. Like, there's a very consistency of graphical quality in that entire era.
Exactly. No, that's a brilliant point, because I even if it's not especially the best or whatever, I like you said, I can't see why it's any less than any other. They're all about the same. Like, it's strange, because they're not oddly bad, or I guess I did have to overthink it a little bit. I came to the conclusion that the graphics in the game the scenes in the game might be a little over ambitious. For the time, for how boxy and clunky, how large the pixels were. In other words. They definitely go for it, like highly detailed outdoor landscapes, ocean in the background, and a boat on it. Like, they really go for it. I thought it was fine, but yeah, that was one criticism. I don't know if this next one is a criticism, but according to a popular source, there. By the way, no one's missing an inside joke. I don't know why I oddly laughed at that. According to a source, it's ranked the 96th best adventure game of all time.
Out of 100?
That's what I'm thinking, right? We talked off air about this. It wasn't a lot of games. If you add them all up, from the golden era, 83 to 96, probably about 100 adventure games. But
I just quickly pulled up on my phone some screenshots. It looks better than any AGI game I can think of off the top of my head.
Thank you, right? I thought they were exceptional. And that's the whole reason I bring this up, because it's like, it's not just like, oh, I slightly disagree. I'm like, no, I think the exact opposite. I thought they were really awesome graphics.
Mm-hmm. That's
you can
impressive.
say it was one of the, it wasn't the last, but it was one of the last AGI games. So I don't know, maybe by the time it was reviewed, they'd gotten spoiled by the hip new SCI VGA graphics. But anyway, like your game, this one also came with a book. In this case, it wasn't really to learn game lore and things like that, but it was an actual book. Called California Gold, Story of the Rush to Riches by Phyllis and Lou Zauer. What an adorable little old couple. They wrote a novel together about the gold rush, the good old days. I'm assuming they were that old when they wrote it and they were around for it. They probably were. The photos are in sepia, so this is old stuff. I didn't read the book because it's mostly not fiction, and I don't feel like I need details on the gold rush. Like, if you just give me the gist of the situation, and that's cool. I think it's fascinating. I don't need to hear about who was president during it and all that. It's fine. I won't retain it anyway. But about the game, besides it coming with stuff, it was really cool. So the box of the game was awesome. It looked like an old Western poster.
Absolutely. I love that box.
And on the cover of the box, it says a 3D adventure action some shit game. which I thought was awesome that they had the balls to say that was 3D.
There is a third dimension. It's not the 3D as we know it now. There is a third dimensional plane in which you can walk.
Okay, that's true. That's true. No, anyway, I just wonder why it wasn't as popular as maybe not like King's Quest or something like that, but it's obviously lots of people know it, lots of people played it, but that being said, it's still brought up or talked about, almost the least out of the Sierra titles. And I just thought I found that strange. All right, get off me back about it.
I just this kind of reminded me that I actually have the big box of the Gold Rush Anniversary, which is a recent release, like 2014 apparently it came out. And so I just pulled the box off the shelf. And as we're talking about how Gold Rush, the original, has like one of the best big box cover arts ever, the Gold Rush Anniversary is kind of not that. I don't even know why I have this. I think I just I really just bought this because I was like, hey, that's a big box. I should get a big box.
Right,
it has some like interesting. It comes with a coin. That's why I got it. It comes with a coin.
That's actually worth it.
No, it's not. It's a really cheap ass looking coin. It's this was not a good purchase.
Especially because my next statement was going to be, if you do stop and play the game eventually, please play the EGA one, not the bloody remake. Because first of all, before I'm mean about it, which I'm about to be, I will say those developers I respect, because I guess it turns out if you like Gold Rush, then you're oddly obsessive with it or fanatical about it, like I am, because this company bought the rights to Gold Rush, a German company, Sunlight Games, I believe, some shit games, whatever.
Okay, I'm sorry. If anyone needs convincing to play this game, let me read the description on the back of the anniversary big box. In 1988, Rush appeared with gold in one of the most comprehensive adventure games of the 1980s. Now the fondly remembered game, Gold Rush, has been developed anew to today's highest standards. No aspect of modern gaming has been overlooked. You can now experience the famous California Gold Rush with high-resolution graphics, speech synthesis, a superb soundtrack, and modern user interface features. Optimized game flow will enhance your traveling and interactions with other characters of the period.
Jesus, that's a bloody mood killer. That is. If we wanted to play the game, we'd talk to you. Jesus.
So there you go. This is why Gold Rush can't have good things.
It's like when a date's going really well, but the guy just won't stop talking and he ruins it. Jesus Christ. Yeah, what was that weird play on words in the beginning?
I don't even know what it means.
Did we miss out on a historical inside joke? Like, the rush that was gold is now the gold. What the bloody hell are they on about?
In 1988, Rush appeared with gold in one of the most comprehensive adventures.
It sounds like the start to a riddle. Where Rush meets gold, you'll find the. What was? All right.
Oh, so yeah, that's.
I think that's that. We've talked about this before. That's that lost in translation, because I know them blokes are German. I feel like if
that's correct.
I feel like if you put that back in German, maybe it's like cute or quippy, just as bloody swing and a miss.
So actually, I think you're onto something there. Just because I look at the German translation, and it clearly is left that first part out. like, that first part is clearly not in this German translation.
Now they just think English speaking people are into corny shit. Then keeps that out of the German one. That's not funny. All right, so the German blokes, I want to say to kudos to them, because they're oddly into this game like I am. They bought the rights, they remastered it in the anniversary edition. Don't play that, play the original. And because it's just the worst kind of reboot update. Like, you saw it on the box. Like, for the year it came out in, the 3D graphics looked 10 years old. Like, it was
that's correct.
It's really not good. But what I do like is that they made a sequel, which was kind of cool. because I kind of wanted this game to have a sequel. So they have a sequel. As much as I love the game, I haven't played it. I do own it, but I haven't played it because the fucking graphics are just so bad. So I'm not sure if I ever will. But anyway, good on them for doing it. That being said, this game is $1.49 on Steam. Go get it, mate. You got that in your bloody pockets right now.
The original one.
Yeah, the original.
Oh, cool. It's weird that it'd be on Steam but not on GOG.
Yeah, it's weird. One of the very few. That whole situation's so strange. Because my next game is vice versa.
But I should, you're talking about how the graphics already look 10 years old for when it came out in 2014. I personally would agree with you, but they clearly do not. Because they say that Gold Rush has been developed anew to today's highest standards.
Oh, that's generous.
No aspect of modern gaming has been overlooked.
They have their mothers review the game for them. This is this is entirely too generous.
I have actually gone full circle now that I've gone through all this. I'm really happy that I own this big box.
Yeah, it's all worth it for the riddle on the back. It's a lot of fun. Show all your friends. Oh, bloody hell. My last thing on Gold Rush, I will say, just for the actual gameplay factor, to try and tempt anyone into playing it, the coolest part of this game for me is that there's 3 ways to get to California. So you start out in Brooklyn, you make the choice to sell basically everything and try and strike it rich out west. And you can either go across the mainlands, go around Devil's Horn or Cape some shit, or go through Panama. Some of those may or may not be actually what it is, but I had to take a photograph of my computer screen for notes because I'm in this weird box turtle hole thing on the ground. Yeah, I'm still there, and I can't read this one part. So anyway, there's 3 different ways to go, and it's cool because it makes the game so much bigger, and I do recognize this as nostalgic because back in the day that was a much bigger deal than it is now to have three options to get somewhere, which is obviously cool for replayability, speaking of being stuck with one game for months at a time, but also because it's the part of the game that encompasses the journey is the second act. So out of let's say 3 acts of the game, the whole second one could potentially be a different game if you go a different way. It's not just one little cheap trick. It's actually a huge part of the game is you traveling there. So it's kind of almost like taking the original Oregon Trail and what would you do to that to give it more playability? It's like
well, if we were to believe the 2014 version, or at least the back of the box of the 2014 version, the 3 paths are the Great Plains, the Isthmus of Panama, or Cape Horn on the tip of South America. And further to your point, at least in this version, if you survive and arrive at Sutter's Fort, the adventure is still only half over.
Yeah, that's about right. And also,
many other puzzles remain to be solved before you achieve your goals in California.
We cannot stress how much more work you'll have to do to finish this bloody game.
You thought the second half would have no puzzles? You're wrong.
It's got bloody all
second
the puzzles
half,
and a goat.
Many other puzzles remain to be solved.
Yeah, don't worry, because
before you achieve your goals.
Once you get to California, you'll have to dig for gold 103 times for some reason. That's right, I'm talking you into playing this.
I remember you mentioning that part.
That does suck, yeah.
About endings that you would change.
Yeah, it bloody kills replayability. But, alright, well, I kind of undid everything I did for Gold Rush just then, so we can move on.
Well, hey, we're explaining why these things aren't more popular than they deserve to be. And,
yeah, it turns out we just work it out for ourselves.
Yeah. We start off with, this should have been more... Nah, actually, you know what? Never mind. I get it.
Don't go back, yeah. Oh, God.
All right, well, I mean, I guess the only way to recover now is to move on. So I guess the only thing else I will add to this conversation is a game I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. And I have a good friend of mine out there who listens to the show who keeps wanting me to talk about this game, so here's a good opportunity to talk about this game. It is Dark Sun Shattered Lands, which is actually one of my favorite games, especially for an RPG, but just games in general. I guess that's what happens when I tend to favor adventure and RPG games. Yeah, this is like in my top 10, top 20 at the very least, but I think it's probably in my top 10. It's a Dungeons and Dragons game. I think it's actually the game that, for me personally, I never really got too huge into the actual tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, like the pen and paper version. But this is the game that really felt most to me like emulating tabletop pen and paper, like playing a pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons campaign on a computer. Like it had all the feel, because it's like it was turn-based combat. It hadn't really gone to real time yet. Very statistic based, very your character moves on. It's a little bit discrete, but it's basically tiled movement. It just hidden pretty well with with some animations and stuff like that. But you basically have movement points, action points. You can it plays very much like tabletop D&D. It's great for its time in terms of role play. Like it's not quite as complex or elaborate as RPGs can be nowadays, where you can have like you can play like an entirely different game from playthrough to playthrough. This one, it's a little bit more narrow, because that's just games weren't as advanced in 1993 as they are in 2019. But there's like there are multiple dialogue options. You can pretty much play the character the way you want as a personality. There's not really the most diverse, in the sense of different solutions to problems, but basically you can go up to a door and decide you can either smash it open or pick the lock or something like that, right? It's hard to really describe in words. It was just such a really cool game at the time that was just so much more. It kind of got overshadowed because there were already some games like Ultima 7 came out the year before. And the year that it came out, I particularly noticed in hindsight as I was looking this up. I'm not saying that I consciously really noticed at the time, but this is around the time between 1992 to 1993, and especially full swing in 1993. Popular gaming really took a shift from fantasy to sci-fi. So when I looked up the games that were popular that came out that year, I came across a list that included X-Wing, Day of the Tentacle, Syndicate, Master of Orion, Doom, and the year before this was Ultima 7, which is already kind of like a huge leap forward ahead of where RPGs really were at that time, and in a lot of ways even more advanced than Dark Sun, whereas Dark Sun had a lot more of a in-depth and robust role-playing aspect to it, for what it did not compare to Ultima 7 in terms of like the technological advancements. So that's kind of got lost in the shuffle, because this is particularly a time, I think, when technology was escalating at a very fast pace. There was a joke around this time about how, as soon as you buy a computer, it's already obsolete. If you weren't spectacular, shiny, new when you came out, you tend to have gotten lost in the shuffle of the releases that came that year. So when it's already kind of outclassed technologically by games that came the year before, it's hard to really pick up, especially if you're not given the chance to prove that, hey, look, we actually have like a far more complex underlying mechanic, which is basically the Dungeons and Dragons second edition rules was basically the engine that was powering the game. For whatever reason that it didn't really gain traction, it's like I said, the 12 people who played this game really love it, and there's a reason for that, because it's awesome, but it just got completely overlooked when it came out.
The way you slipped in 12 people was so slick. If one wasn't sure, you would think you might have been serious with how much conviction. You just cold, steady face 12 bloody people.
If you had as much success as I did in trying to find the sales numbers, as I did, you cannot disprove me.
And shocking to say, I have not. This one I haven't played, and I always. Well, first of all, if it came out, you said it came out with Day of the Tentacle and Doom, just to name two.
Within the same year, so I'm not sure exactly where it fell in between them, but that was the year that it came out. It came out with X-Wing, Day of the Tentacle, Doom, Syndicate. Like, these are groundbreaking games.
Yeah, that's a lot
right?
of huge heavyweights, and almost one per category, and so.
Mm-hmm. And Master of Orion is like another one of those all-time classics of just like depth of gameplay, and again, like I said, there was a huge shift around this time going from fantasy, which a lot of games leading up to this period were very fantasy based, and there's this huge switch over to sci-fi, especially in this year. So that's also another kind of when the entire industry just changed genres just like that.
Yeah, it's funny because on the list that you just regave, I've owned or played every other game but this one on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like once again, I think before even going into that one, it sounds like you had it worked out why it wasn't more popular. I guess I got one more. Unless you got anything else you want to add onto that. Damn it. It's so eerie.
Sorry, what was that?
The house feels so empty and cold and alone when you spin that ring.
Oh, right. Sorry. I was supposed to take that off. Sorry, you were saying something? I was distracted.
I was just closing my curtains so that everyone can see in and I can't see out. It's making things creepy. All right, so I'll move on to my last game. I don't have nearly as compelling of an argument for this as you just prepared for that previous one there. So... no, I've gone with the bloody 1991 release, as I audibly try and find the year, of Willy Beamish, or The Adventures of Willy Beamish by bloody Dynamix. Dynamics? Yeah,
Dynamics. Dynamics.
I say it how I read it.
Is it a workout supplement?
I've been saying it wrong for so long.
Oh, I need my Dynamix pre-workout, bro.
God, as soon as you said it like that, I just realized I've been saying it wrong for 35, because it immediately made sense hearing your version. Oh, God. That was horrible. Man, I feel like I have no grounds to stand on to make any sort of point after admitting I can't pronounce a very that I'm too scared to say again. I think I might duff it up and leave it. All right.
And that is why Willy Beamish was not as popular as it should have been.
Couldn't get past the bloody publisher. So, all right, did you play Willy Beamish first of all?
I did not. I was aware of it throughout its entire existence, and it was just one of those games that I never got around to playing myself. So you have a point.
No, I thought about it with this game because it's you play a child. I think Willie's like 9. He acts older than that in the game, I think. But you give or take. He's like 9 years old, and I looked at it as like this game is fun enough for an adult because I did replay it within the last few years and I enjoyed it. I was like it's fun enough for an adult and it's not. I don't think it's too much for a kid. This should be like everyone's game. Then I kind of realized on the flip side, I think that's the same thing that kills it. I don't think kids look at it as like it was a kid's game, and I think adults just saw like a young boy and was like, no thanks, like that's fine, I'll pass on that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have a target audience, I don't think, and the contents of the game, as much as I do love the game, I can acknowledge that. You're playing a boy, but it's like the developers kind of knew that the audience would mostly be adults playing it, so they put in like some oddly inappropriate sexual jokes and stuff. I mean, just as Frog being named horny in general, they kind of play off that a few times in the game, and there's like an affair. One time, like this female CEO is riding her little Smithers like a horse. There's some weird things in the game, so it's cartoony, but it is mildly sexual. Like this, the really powerful villain in the game is a like CEO. This girl, a female CEO, and she has like a Smithers, like a little errand boy, like who's obsessed with her. And there's like this one scene where he's on all fours and she's riding him and spanking him.
All right.
A little weird, right? So it's like, who's this game made
I
for?
just looked up Willy Beamish, and I just came across the box art, and it does look really highly marketed to the '90s kids.
Right. Right, yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at with these sexual things. Why I'm thinking it didn't do as well. It seems pushed more towards kids than adults, but the game is almost definitely for an adult. Like it's never so bad a kid couldn't play it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, besides the sexual innuendos, the puzzles are fucking ridiculously difficult. There's at least one timed puzzle at the end that's so much of the game is walkthrough territory for me personally. At least now, when I replayed it. It's just bloody hard, and it's a weird subject. I think the part of me that does like the game a lot is like and they kind of pitch the game this way too. Like, what if you could go back and be a kid in school again now with everything that you know? And
Right.
some kind of fun about that. Like, if I would go to high school, I could rise above all that and figure out how to master the system. So there's like kind of this appeal to be like, all right, that'd be kind of fun. But ultimately, it is. I was gonna say it's not, but it is fun. I do really like the game, but I think it's just one of those marketed for nobody kind of games. Like,
Right.
do I play it as a kid or as an adult? And I also think it just seems like games for children on the PC never really took off like these kind of games.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were out there. The Sierra Discovery series, obviously, with Echo Quest and Pepper in Time and.
Well, I'll tell you something about my personal experience. I don't know in terms of like the wider general experience of the generation, but in my own personal experience, in the '90s when I was a kid, and you look at this thing, and it looks like it's put through a corporate ringer of like what is cool for a '90s kid. Give him a rat tail, ride a skateboard, baggy shirt, and a pet frog, I guess. That's I don't know. So it's like, okay, look, kids, this is like a kid. He's one of you guys. This is great. And I just think back to when I was a kid in the '90s. In anything, whether it's a movie or a TV show, I never looked up to wanting to be the other kid. I want to be the adult,
Yeah, that's so true.
I didn't want to be another kid.
Right, yeah, like, why would you...
Otherwise, I would have just been that kid. I didn't want to be that kid,
Yeah, why would you aspire to be somebody with the same childlike restrictions that you have? It's no fun.
Yeah. Do you want to play a kid who's cooler than you? Why wouldn't I just be a kid who's cooler than I am? I'm not.
Right, I just for some escapism, I want to be a fictional character that still has to be home for dinner at 6 and all that bullshit.
Yeah,
and that is a premise in the Willy Beamish game, that there's like a trouble-o-meter or something cleverly named like that, where you can make the wrong choice a few times, but eventually the meter looks like a thermometer, just goes up and up, and then you get sent to boot camp or some 80s trope like that. Because every kid in the 80s in the 90s, I should say, thought they were going to go to boot camp if they were bad. How many boot camps were there? Why was that such a huge threat? So Willy Beamish, like you're pushing your sister on a swing, and like for kicks, you can push her too hard and she falls off and gets hurt. So that'd be a way you get in trouble. And you can, everybody gets one. Like if you do it too many times, you go to boot camp. But that was a kind of a fun part of the game, was like pushing the boundaries of what a kid could do. But to your point, you're still a kid. So if you fuck up enough, you go to bloody boot camp, or you don't get to play in your Nintari.
I want to play the game where he goes to boot camp.
I know. It shouldn't end there. That would be awesome. Privileged suburban little kid gets a dose of reality.
Yeah, I mean, like, is the guy like a rebel or something? Like the few times, like, it's never been me, but a few times I noticed like kids around me really wanted to be another kid in pop culture was usually when it was some sort of like a counterculture thing, like a Bart Simpson or a Beavis and Butthead, right? It's
right.
Like was at least like somebody like somebody like at least kind of edgy or something that sort of channels into the rebellious nerve of the childish mind.
Yeah, I guess
something.
You could definitely say Willy was like a very watered down Bart Simpson.
Okay.
You know, even especially with the skateboard, and yeah, they definitely watched a few Simpsons episodes. I think there's some influence. That was what I'm trying to say from Willie to Bart, but it's weird because you know, if you do what Bart would do, what you kind of want to do in the game, you just lose the game. So it's
So it's trying to teach you to be like to obey the rules.
yeah. I'm starting to hate the game now that I'm talking about it because
I know. I want to play it now.
the game just beats you into submission like life. It's like, you know,
What happens at boot camp? Like seriously, it's like I used to watch those daytime talk shows where they'd get like the worst children in the world, then they'd send them to boot camp and they'd come back like scared straight. It's like, oh my god, I now know that everything I've done was wrong. It's like, really? You didn't know that before? Like something they did in boot camp. Like, what are they doing to you in boot camp that makes you suddenly realize the error of your ways?
yeah, that's a good point. They spend a bloody week with Michael Jackson or something. Oh, that's horrible. And I like him too.
I don't know. Knowing me at that age, and I wasn't even a very rebellious kid. I hit my rebellious stage pretty late in life, right? I was like my late teens and 20s when I hit my rebellious phase. I was pretty like decent. Other than being a slacker and just doing poorly in class, I wasn't really a rebel when I was a teen. So it's like, if anything, if I went through boot camp, like if I was told to go through boot camp and I went through it, that'd probably like empower me to be more of a dick. Like I'd just be like, I went through boot camp, bitch. Like
Yeah,
that wouldn't fix me. It'd break me more.
that's so true. I'd come out with this hardened ego, like you know, did hard time, and yeah, if you.
They just taught me how to do 50 push-ups. I'm fucking invincible now. You know?
It's eerily close to why the prison system has struggles to be effective. I think sounds like a lot of the same problems. But we just spent a few months getting
stuff here.
getting really ripped and angry, and then we got spit back into society. You just simulated an adult prison, my friend.
So that is why Willie Beamish was not more popular.
Yeah, exactly. Because of prison, maybe. Probably. But apparently this game like really underperformed like greatly. Like I'm not sure if it lost money, but they expected big things. They hired like illustrators from Disney, I believe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think that's true. Probably. So anyway, that's all I got to say on it.
All right. Well, I'm going to say good luck on editing this down to 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, Christ. Welcome. Yeah. Thank you for listening to our first 2-part special. All right. Well, listen, buddy, join the conversation, right? That's what it says in our podcast description that I'm reading aloud. So I'm afraid I'm going to fuck up the handles, and I just accidentally read that part out loud. Oh, shit. Okay. Follow us on bloody Facebook, facebook.com/classic gamers guild, facebook.com/group/classic gamers guild. We're on Instagram at CGG podcast, on Twitter at the CG Guild. I really struggle with our Twitter. The CG Guild. There we go.
Yes.
And patreon.com/classic gamers guild. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, drink plenty of water, get lots of exercise, call your bloody mother. Do things for us.
It's good to be back.
Alright, don't do a murder. Goodbye, everyone.